Good morning, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world. You've tuned in to the Mac City Morning Show. I am your host, Elliot Pierre, and like every show, we're going to start this off with a moment of gratitude. I know you could be doing a million other things with your time, so the fact that you're spending with us truly does mean the world to me, so thank you. On that note, Tanner, hit him with the intro.
How's she cutting me, loves? You're listening to the Mac City Morning Show.
All right, and we're back. Okay, today's going to be a good episode. We have a long-time resident of Fort McMurray today, so I know he's got a lot to talk about. Some of it's topical, some of it's historical. It's going to be a good episode. As you guys know, I don't introduce my guests because they can do a better job at that than myself. So on that note, sir, can you please tell everybody at home who you are and what you're about?
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
My name is Allan Grandson. As you said, a long-term resident. I moved to Fort McMurray in the early 80s. Very begrudgingly, too, I might add.
Okay.
One of the many people that came to town with a short contract. I arrived here with a 6-month contract, did a really good job, and they said, we really liked what you did, so we've decided to make you the northern manager.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, we relocated the head office to Fort McMurray, and that's how I arrived. Right?
Nice.
At first, I had a lot of difficulty with the community, mostly because I kept leaving.
Right.
And a friend of mine said, you're not going to fall in love with Fort McMurray unless you stay here. So I made a commitment to not leave for a year.
Okay.
And in that year, I fell in love with the place. I got into everything that this region had to offer, hunting, fishing, sports, etc.
Yeah.
Fell in love with the community. I've been here ever since.
Right.
So when I arrived, I was working in childcare.
Okay.
And back in the early 80s, the Young Offenders Act came in, and they took over my program, and I became a jailer.
Oh.
And that wasn't of interest to me. I was in the field to help people, not to be a jailer. So
Right.
I left the field, and I went to work for Fort McMurray First Nations as the band manager.
Okay.
And I worked there for a couple of years as the band manager. I actually brought in the water and sewer and built that as the project manager for the First Nations.
Okay.
There was a change in governance there, and I went back into childcare again, and I took over St. Aidan's House Society at that point in time.
Okay.
So I developed the first northern treatment foster care program and supported an independent living program and ran the group home for 15 years.
Okay.
At which point I left and actually went and worked for the municipality, and I was hired on as the rural supervisor. So I worked as the rural supervisor and Aboriginal liaison for all of the rural communities within this region.
Right.
During my tenure there, I was acting manager of community development for a couple of years.
Okay.
Loved my time with the municipality. After 10 years, we parted ways, and I went into real estate.
Right.
My wife and I are part owners of a convenience store gas bar in Fort Chip with Archie Walkwin, who is the chief of Miksut Cree First Nations.
Okay.
So we have a business there in addition to my real estate business here in Fort McMurray.
Nice.
I'm also a John's first aid instructor.
Okay.
So I always kind of keep my hands in a lot of things. I like to stay busy.
Yeah.
I like to keep my mind fresh. In terms of volunteer work, I mean, right from day one in this community, I got involved with the community.
Yeah.
I was on the executive of the Adult Slow Pitch League for 23 years.
Okay.
I was the umpire-in-chief, and I taught both baseball and softball umpires and supervised them for many, many years.
Yeah.
Most recently, I spent 4 years on the RRC board. I was on a number of provincial boards, the Alberta Association of Services for Children and Families.
Yeah.
And I've had a number of other volunteer. I do a lot of volunteer work with seniors in our community as well as youth.
Okay.
So that's kind of me in a background. I'm married. My wife's name is Sandy. We have 2 children. They're both here working in the community. My one son is at Syncrude.
Yeah.
I was about to say Suncor because they're kind of connected now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's working at Syncrude as a heavy-duty mechanic. And my other son works for Stony Valley Contracting at the moment, saving money to go back to school again.
There you go.
So that's me.
There you go. And Tanner, hit me up with the camera for a second.
Yeah.
There's something else that you're doing that you're doing right now. Everybody at home can see what I'm holding up.
You're
go. Running for council.
I am.
All right.
And my decision, it's interesting. My decision to run for council, I'm sure you and some of the audience know, I did run for mayor 4 years ago.
Yep.
I believed at that time that was an appropriate decision. I was not successful. And part of the feedback I got was a lot of people, regardless of my experience, having presented to council and at provincial levels, that they want to see a mayor with experience.
Right.
And fair enough. I
Yeah.
accepted that. And this term I came back and ran for council. I still think I have a lot to contribute.
Yeah.
Sitting around the horn, I think every voice matters in representing the public. So I've elected to go with council at this time.
There we go. So how have you found the election so far, or the campaigning, I should say?
Interesting. With so many candidates running,
There's 24 of you.
there's 24 people running in Ward 1.
Yeah.
And some days it's really difficult to get a feel for the pulse. I think I'm doing well. Certainly the reception I've had and the feedback I've had indicate that people like what I have to say.
Yeah.
I see myself as being kind of a down-to-earth communicator.
Right.
I like to talk about real things, real issues.
Yeah.
I talked about even 4 years ago celebrating who we are in this region, who
Right.
we are and where we are.
Yeah.
I found it very frustrating to have so many outside consultants come in and try and guide regional council in a direction that's not necessarily reflective of the demographics in this community.
Right.
And I think to be a fair representative, we have to recognize who lives here. Why do we live here?
Yeah.
And what do we have to celebrate about where we are? And
That's right.
That's kind of the approach I've taken.
Nice. Nice. So from your last run for mayor to council, what do you think has changed in the community in regards to politics?
Well, I think the fact that 24 people are running
Yeah.
is somewhat reflective of some dissatisfaction
Yeah.
with, and again, that's not meant to point fingers or to do anything like that, but I think the community is speaking loudly and saying, we want to change. We're not really happy. I really love that. I'm sure you've heard the expression, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right.
I really believe that's true sometimes, and I certainly think it's true in politics.
Right.
If what we're doing isn't working, maybe it's time we take a step back, re-examine what it is we're trying to accomplish, and maybe start thinking out of the box. How can we do it differently?
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is not really working well.
Right.
So how can we do it differently? And
Yeah.
I'd like to bring that kind of approach
Yeah.
to council. I'm really a big believer in brainstorming,
Yeah.
in sitting down and saying, this isn't working. What's another way we can tweak this? We do community consultations and we get a very, very low turnout.
Right.
So does that maybe mean we should come to you?
Yeah.
Should we be going to all of these big community groups and having conversations with them instead of trying to draw them to us?
Right.
Maybe we'll get a more receptive response to the
Right.
questions that we have to ask.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I've asked this, I think, to every person running, may it be from the people run for mayor or council. In this day and age, and like I know somebody's got to do it. I can't understand why anybody would do this in regards to run. Just the scrutiny that you're under, how social media people gravitate to it. Like you can hear what people feel about you, good and or bad. Obviously because of like economic downturn, pandemic, so on and so forth. It's a tough gig.
It is.
It's a tough gig. So what is it about it that attracts you to want to do this?
So why on earth would I step into that pool?
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. One, I think I've got pretty tough skin.
Okay.
I've worked in fields. When you work in the rural communities, for example, there are many dynamics.
Yeah.
You have to have a tough skin. You have to be able to kind of go with the flow and go where things are. So I
Right.
think I have that aspect.
Okay.
I think I'm a good communicator. And I think a lot of times I try and look at the picture a little different than other people do. I kind of take a step back and say, if we do this, where's that going to go? What kind of consequences might occur, positive and negative?
Right.
I think I'm smart enough to ask some of the right questions, and that may sound arrogant, and it's not meant to.
Yeah.
But I really analyze what we're doing, and I
Yeah.
want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Why? What could be the possible outcomes if we do this? Right.
That's right.
What might the effect be? My wife certainly asks me this question all the time. Oh my
Yeah.
God, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I would run the other way. I'm okay with being in front. I'm okay with asking the hard questions, making the hard decisions.
Right.
I think we as a community have to evolve with who we are.
Yeah.
We have to stop trying to compare ourselves to Toronto or Vancouver or Kelowna or Palm Springs. We are in the middle of the Borealis forest. We are
Right.
a community isolated that's very unique.
Yeah.
And we have to start letting the world know why we exist and what the value is in this community. People keep talking about how do we bring people here? Well, people come here for work,
Yeah.
for education, for loved ones. Those are the reasons people come here.
Right.
Then why do they stay?
Yeah.
I came here for work.
That's right.
And yet I've stayed for over 3 decades. I've stayed because I found the value in who we are as a community. I love the camaraderie of the sports. I love the compassion of the people that live here. I love the work ethic. This is a hardworking town. And we have to start catering to the people who live here
Right.
more so than just that. We'll attract people by celebrating who we are and demonstrating what they can. How many people have started their careers? I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to move to Fort McMurray and get 5 years experience.
Yeah.
And then I can go anywhere.
Right.
Many people come here for reasons like that. Our job is to try and help them stay, to see the value of why they're. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
My children live here.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming at least one of my children is going to make a career working in the oil sands.
That's right.
I would like him to have a good life and his family when he eventually has one.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I also really appreciate the dynamics of our region. We have all these First Nations communities around us. We have so much to offer in this community, and they're not separate from us. They're just different. Conklin is different than Anzac, which
Right.
is different than Fort Chip or Fort McKay. And we have to start recognizing and celebrating each of those communities as unique within a whole region. I think I bring some of that to the table as well.
There you go.
I don't know whether I answered your question.
Hey, listen, it's just a conversation. So the answer is you always answer my question. Now, with the history of work that you stated at the beginning, you've had a tremendously different career in regards to the different industries that you've worked in and where you started. What attracted you to real estate?
My wife and I have always been investors in real estate within the community. We've been very fortunate to purchase properties in the past when the market was very different in Fort McMurray before it went really crazy.
That's right.
And we had a lot of success.
Yeah.
So I've always had, for about 25 years, I've had an interest in real estate.
Right.
Was personal friends with Lance.
Yeah.
And Lance had encouraged me to step into the real estate market many years ago.
Okay.
And when I made the decision to do that, it was a very hot market,
That's
a
right.
very different market than the one we have now.
No doubt.
And it made sense. It allowed me to meet people, allowed me to do something I was passionate about, which is put people into their homes and help people start their families and so on and so forth. And it just made a lot of sense. It made good economic sense for me at the time, too. Real estate
Right.
was a really good business to be in.
Yeah.
And it was an interest. So that's
Cool.
what drew me into it.
There we go. All right, my man. We're at the part of the show called the Mac City Minute. This is where Tanner's going to ask you some questions. I don't know what he's going to ask you, so I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Tanner, hit him with the Mac City Minute.
All righty. Question number 1. What is one thing you've learned from your last run for council that you used for this run?
I think to hear what I think I always listen to people, but I think I even listen more. We're here to represent the people, and I had somebody ask me, actually another candidate asked me, what are the issues? And my response to that candidate was, I can't tell you that. You have to get that information from the people that you need to represent. So you need to go out and find out what the issues are. So I've made a point, for example, of going to businesses. We keep hearing about helping small businesses and stuff. So I went to business owners and I said, what are your challenges? What are the things that you're having difficult with? So I think I've learned to listen better, and I've learned to ask questions a little differently.
Question number 2. What is your favorite moment from your time as a baseball dad?
Watching a team come together. One of the things I believe that is really underrated when it comes to sports, and I've said this to my kids many times and the kids that I've coached, we're not always going to like the people that we work with as we get older. Part of working on a team is learning how to work with people, even people you may not like or agree with. How do you still accomplish a task and work together? That's my favorite.
Question number 3. What has been the biggest change you've seen in Fort McMurray, and how do you feel like you could impact that change on council?
The biggest change, I've seen councils that work together, and I've seen councils that don't work together. I think we've seen a history of both, and I really think that one of the skills that I bring is bringing people together and looking at things differently, realizing we're not always going to believe the same things or even agree on a topic or a decision, but we're all there for the same reason, to represent the citizens of this region. So I think working collaboratively has to be one of the key priorities if we're going to accomplish anything.
Question number 4. What is something you think you could help improve on in the community if elected?
Communication. I don't think that the municipality has opened all of the opportunities to communicate with the citizens. I'm often asking people if they're aware of this or that, or how decisions are made or why decisions are made. I certainly revert back to what Pierre said about the criticism, particularly with social media. One of the reasons that happens is because people don't know the methodology or the reasons. You know, we have a social procurement, for example. I'm not sure that everybody understands that within that social procurement, we still have to follow the rules of the MGA set out by the province, and we're not allowed to work outside of those boundaries, for example, right? So I think finding a way or a better way or more enhanced way of ensuring that our citizens know what we're doing and why we're doing it is something that I think I can bring to the table.
And your final question, what is one thing you think Fort McMurray does better than any other community?
Oil sands. That's an easy answer. Not only oil sands, I think we have a sense of camaraderie in this community. As I said, I've been involved with ball for most of my adult life. After the fire, I watched the ball community rally around people who lost their homes. I watched this community come together after a disaster, the flood last year, the fire a number of years ago. We come together like no other community. We support each other, we advocate for each other, and we help each other out when times are tough.
And those have been your 5 questions.
Thank you.
Go. Good questions, Tanner. Always killing it, son.
Thank you.
So throughout this experience of running for council, what has been one of the things that you've enjoyed most throughout the process?
Enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
It's always fun to get positive feedback.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most. When I actually hit the chord
Right.
and people tell me that I've hit the chord,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I enjoy the most. Mm-hmm. I think there's common themes that happen in elections, and I think that a lot of times candidates have what I call the generic language.
Right.
And they have to, because we want to tell the citizens that we want to be strategic and manage their money and everything. But we all say that.
Right.
So I like to dig a little deeper with people. And when I hear their reactions, when I can demonstrate that I have some comprehensive knowledge of how we may accomplish those tasks and look at their reactions, that's really enjoyable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How, in this climate, how have you been getting out and talking to people?
I've been door knocking.
Okay.
Going to events.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's people. You know, last weekend was Thanksgiving, and obviously my wife wanted me to go see my mother-in-law and go to the farm.
Right.
I chose to stay. One of the things I did was go to the golf tournament that was going on, and met people there and just had conversations with people. Sometimes it's a lot nicer to just one-on-one have a conversation. You get a lot more information.
Oh, definitely.
Than when it's done in a strategic or a formatted environment.
Very true.
So a lot of times I like to just talk to the person on the street. My kids always say, how do you talk to somebody in the lineup at Safeway? And I go, you just say hi.
Just say hi.
And just start talking. And
that's right.
People will react with
that's
when
right.
you do that.
That's very true. Cool. Well, my man, that's the end of the show. 20 minutes flies. But before you leave, everybody gets a shameless shout out or plug. So the camera's on you. The mic's on you. Let's hear your shameless shout out or plug.
I don't know if it's shameless. Look, I think everything that you've heard me say is who I am.
Right.
anybody who knows me knows that I've been doing who I am for many, many years. I think I can be a good voice. I think I can listen well and represent your interests. So on October 18th, I would hope and I look forward to your support.
There we go.
Thanks very
Awesome.
much.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, and please feel free to come back again and again and again.
All right. Thank
Sweet.
you.
All right. Well, Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo, and the rest of the world, that's been another episode of the Mac City Morning Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.